Welcome to Deep Dive. Today we're taking a close look at a truly significant shift happening in the U.S. labor market, one that's particularly impacting foreign-born workers. We've seen some compelling data emerge recently, and it paints a picture of substantial, rapid changes that are already sending ripple effects across the economy and through countless communities. For anyone trying to get a clear grasp on the current employment landscape and the powerful forces shaping it, well, this deep dive is specifically for you.
Indeed, and we're going to systematically unpack some key findings from recent analysis, drawing on robust government data. It highlights a distinct and, frankly, rather dramatic reversal of trends we've observed for well over a decade now. It's a topic that directly touches on the stability of our economy, the evolution of immigration policy, and, of course, the lives of millions. Our aim is to give you a clear, comprehensive, and most importantly, an understandable picture of exactly what's unfolding.
Okay, so to kick things off, let's zoom in on the sheer scale of this shift, because the numbers are, frankly, quite startling. Recent analysis by the National Foundation for American Policy, meticulously drawing on official government data, estimates that over 1.1 million foreign-born workers have lost their jobs since January 2025. And this isn't some slow, gradual decline we're talking about. It's been an incredibly rapid contraction.
Yeah, incredibly rapid.
In fact, if you look at the period from a peak back in March to mid-2025, those losses swelled to approximately 1.5 million. That's a staggering number of individuals exiting the workforce in a remarkably short amount of time.
It really is. And what's absolutely crucial here is to understand the historical context to truly grasp the gravity of these figures. For roughly a decade leading up to this, specifically between 2014 and 2024, we saw a consistent, powerful trend. The foreign-born labor force in the U.S. was actually expanding by an average of around 652,000 workers every single year, year after year.
Wow, 652,000 a year on average.
Exactly. So for over 1 million workers to exit the labor force in less than a year, with that peak loss hitting 1.5 million, it represents not just a slowdown, but an extremely stark and, unprecedented reversal of that decade-long pattern. It's like hitting a sudden sharp break after a long, steady acceleration. This isn't just a statistical blip, it signals a fundamental recalibration of our labor market, and it's a shift you absolutely need to be aware of.
And this rapid decline is clearly mirrored in the unemployment rates too, right? Which have unfortunately been on the rise for foreign-born workers. Their jobless rate increased from 3.6% in 2023 to 4.2% in 2024. Now, for context, the unemployment rate among native-born workers also saw an increase during that same period, moving from 3.6% to 4.0%.
Also an increase, but slightly less pronounced.
Right. But the scale and speed of the shift for foreign-born workers seems to suggest something more systemic at play, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. What this really reveals is not just a general tightening of the labor market, which we are seeing to some extent. It shows a sudden, dramatic uncoupling of our labor supply from those historical growth engines. For years, foreign-born workers were a consistent source of labor growth, filling crucial roles across various sectors. This reversal suggests a fragility few fully predicted, and it's one that impacts all of us, whether you're an immigrant or not. Because it speaks to the underlying health and flexibility of our overall economy. We're not just seeing a slowdown, we're witnessing a substantial contraction. It has significant implications for how our labor market functions and, well, who participates in it.
Okay, so if we drill down a bit then, what are the underlying currents driving this sudden, pronounced change? It feels like there must be some specific forces at play beyond typical economic cycles to explain such a rapid and distinct downturn for this specific segment of the workforce.
You're right, it's certainly not just one thing. It's more a complex mix of policy and practical elements converging at once. The analysis by the National Foundation for American Policy pinpoints 3 primary contributing factors. Firstly, we're observing the implementation of much stricter immigration measures.
Stricter measures, like what specifically?
Well, these include a range of policies that actively restrict legal immigration pathways. They also block vital programs like Temporary Protected Status, TPS, which, for those unfamiliar, provides temporary refuge and work authorization to eligible nationals from countries facing crises like war or natural disaster. They also include limits on new refugee admissions and the reduction or even outright termination of humanitarian parole programs, which allow individuals to enter the U.S. for urgent humanitarian reasons. So basically, it's becoming significantly more challenging for individuals to either enter or remain in the U.S. with authorized work status.
I see. So fewer people coming in or staying legally?
That's a big part of it. The second factor is the termination of authorized status for some workers who previously held it. This isn't just about new entries, it means some foreign workers who had legally established lives and jobs here, contributing to our economy for years, are now having their work authorizations revoked or simply not renewed. This effectively removes them from the legal workforce, directly contributing to these job loss figures.
Wow. So people already working here legally are losing that status.
Exactly. And then the third significant driver involves widespread layoffs in visa-specific categories. This particularly impacts workers under non-immigrant visas like the H-1B visa, which is primarily granted to skilled workers in specialty occupations, think tech, engineering, healthcare. These workers face a particular vulnerability. Think of it this way. For an H-1B worker, their visa is tied directly to their job.
Right, the employer sponsorship.
Precisely. Lose that job, and essentially their clock starts ticking. They often have just a short grace period, sometimes as little as 60 days, to find a new employer willing to sponsor their visa. If they can't find one in time, they're required to leave the U.S. This creates immense pressure and makes them uniquely susceptible to layoffs that can have immediate, life-altering consequences.
So we're talking about a powerful combination then. Explicit policy shifts and the inherent vulnerabilities within our existing visa systems creating this perfect storm. It's not just economic shifts, but direct governmental actions and system design impacts driving these figures.
That's a very good way to put it, a confluence of factors.
Are we seeing particular industries hit hardest by this policy-driven impact, or is it more generalized across the economy?
Well, the impact is certainly felt across various sectors, but it definitely compounds existing pressures in industries that have historically relied very heavily on foreign-born labor.
Yeah.
Think about the agriculture sector, which is deeply dependent on seasonal workers, or hospitality, which often struggles with staffing, certain tech roles that thrive on global talent, and even many local service industries. A sudden drop in the availability of these workers, driven by policy rather than purely economic demand, exacerbates existing labor market softness across the board.
Okay, so beyond the individual stories and the immediate numbers, what does this all mean for the broader economy and communities across the U.S.? These are huge numbers we're talking about, so the ripple effects must be incredibly significant.
They absolutely are. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this precipitous drop in foreign-born employment definitely adds to broader signs of a cooling U.S. job market. We're already seeing lower overall job creation numbers, and this impact is especially felt in sectors that historically employ large numbers of immigrants. This could further erode overall labor demand across various industries. What's critical here is understanding that disrupting this specific segment of the workforce acts like pulling a crucial Jenga piece. The whole economy feels the tremor.
That's a good analogy.
From local corner stores to national supply chains. Foreign-born workers are absolutely key to many vital industries, from service sectors that keep our daily lives running to tech, agriculture, and hospitality. A rapid reduction in their numbers could very quickly exacerbate labor shortages in some areas, potentially driving up costs for businesses who struggle to fill positions. Ultimately, this could slow overall economic growth at a time when, frankly, stability is paramount.
And the economic impact is just one side of the coin, right?
Exactly. Beyond the purely economic, there are profound social and human implications. These job losses, at such a scale, have far-reaching ripple effects on families, both here in the U.S. and abroad, as crucial remittances sent home are impacted. Imagine a small town where a significant portion of the workforce in a key industry, maybe manufacturing or construction, are foreign-born. These job losses don't just affect those families, they directly impact local businesses that rely on their patronage, school enrollment, even the vibrancy of Main Street as communities grapple with reduced populations and economic activity.
So you can see this isn't just about statistics, it's about real impact on supply chains, consumer prices, and the very fabric of our communities. It truly touches on almost every aspect of daily life, and the knock-on effects could be significant for years to come. This makes you wonder, as we look ahead, what are the critical indicators we should be monitoring to understand how this story evolves?
Yeah, that's the key question now. Given the dynamic nature of this situation, there are several key areas we absolutely need to monitor going forward. First, the pace of decline itself. Will the decrease in the foreign-born labor force accelerate even further, or will it start to stabilize? The analysis projects that this decrease may continue through late 2025 and potentially even into 2026, so its trajectory will be crucial.
Okay, so watching the rate of change. What else?
Second, we'll need to watch how industries that are already struggling to find workers will adapt. This is huge. Will we see companies simply pay significantly more to attract native-born workers? Or will they invest heavily in automation to reduce labor needs? That's a big one. Will some businesses consider moving certain operations outside the U.S. if labor becomes too scarce or expensive domestically?
That offshoring, yeah.
Exactly. And what about consumers? Will you see higher prices for goods and services as businesses try to absorb these increased labor costs? Very likely in some areas.
And policy. Surely there'll be reactions there.
That's the third point. We should closely observe the policy reactions. Will these growing economic impacts prompt legislative action in Washington? Perhaps new forms of legal challenges to current policies will emerge in the courts? Or even a renewed push for comprehensive immigration reform that acknowledges both our economic needs for a robust workforce and, humanitarian concerns. Finally, it will be vital to observe the overall unemployment impacts. How will this significant adjustment in the foreign-born labor market ultimately affect unemployment rates across the board, including among native-born workers, as the entire labor market adjusts to these profound shifts? This isn't a static situation, it's really a dynamic puzzle with many moving pieces. Its evolution will tell us much about our economy and society, shaping everything from inflation to innovation.
A lot to keep an eye on, definitely.
To summarize our discussion today, we've explored how over 1 million foreign-born workers have experienced job losses since January 2025. This represents a dramatic and sharp reversal from previous growth trends that lasted well over a decade. This decline is directly linked to a combination of stricter immigration measures, policy changes affecting existing worker statuses, and significant layoffs in specific non-immigrant visa categories like the H-1B. The implications of these changes are broad, impacting the overall U.S. labor market, specific industries from tech to agriculture, and the economic and social well-being of many communities. This situation clearly necessitates careful and continuous observation of future developments and potential policy responses.
This entire shift makes you wonder, doesn't it? As the global economy navigates unprecedented changes, how much of our future prosperity, our innovation, and even the vibrancy of our local communities is tied to an adaptable, diverse workforce? And what happens when we intentionally make that workforce less so? It's a question worth pondering long after this deep dive ends. All the best, and we will meet again with another important matter again.